Hey guys, we're back again. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Galaxy A53. I was previously coming from the Google Pixel 6a, which is a pretty good phone, but they have pretty weak battery life, so I was really looking forward to switching over to the A53, which does have a bigger battery life, so I was curious to see what the experience is going to be like. I'm typically not a fan of spending $1,000 on the super expensive high-end phone, so these mid-range phone from the $400 range to like the $700 or $800 is usually the sweet spot for me. Watch to the end of the video and I will let you know if I would be recommending the Galaxy A53. When I first boot up the phone, I noticed that it still had the old navigation system with the home button at the bottom, along with the back and also the recent buttons. It's personal preference at this point, but now I've gotten used to the gestures, but you can easily just go to the settings and change it to the gestures. But that's the first thing I noticed when I open the box. In terms of the design itself, I think the back of the phone looks a little bit ugly with the camera hump, just the way it kind of bulge out and there's like a little curvy dent looking design near the camera. Doesn't look that great. They definitely did a better job with the S series with the metal rims and everything like that, so that's how they are distinguishing their premium phones versus their budget phones. And even in terms of the material, this one is made of plastic. It is pretty light to hold for a big phone, and you can tell it is the more budget model compared to the S series. The design in terms of the button placement is pretty solid. The power button is at a good spot and within reach when you're holding the phone. Volume rocker is slightly above that. Fingerprint sensor is at a good spot as well. I wish it was just a tiny bit higher, but this is doable. I do like that the phones still support micro SD, which is rare these days, so that's a huge plus for me. Speakers on this phone works really well. Good for watching video, listening to music. And the chip itself is surprisingly pretty efficient in some ways. I use my phones as dash cams a lot, and I noticed that this one does not really heat up compared to the S series. And just in general, this is more of an Android thing compared to Apple, but they do have a close all app button. Surprisingly, to this day, Apple still don't have that. You have to manually swipe all the apps away if you want to close them all. Kind of personal preference if you do want to close them all or not, but sometimes you just want a clean slate and not have to manually swipe everything away. A lot of the high-end smartphone these days can handle all the multitask and apps going on in the background, but sometimes it doesn't hurt just to clear your system up a little bit so not all the apps have to be running all the time. Essentially, the A series is Samsung finding a way to deliver a lot of value. So you're getting a really good camera at a discounted price. It is $450 compared to getting the S series that start off at $700 or $800 depending on when you buy them. And overall the camera is pretty solid. I do a lot of photos and even walk-in videos. It does come with OIS, so it does a pretty good job of capturing these videos. Very stable and comes out looking really nice. The phone itself have pretty good standby time, so if you leave the phone there, I'm pretty sure it'll last a day or two. But if you're actively using it, the battery does drain kind of quick. I think I get about roughly 8 to 10 hours a day depending on usage, but it would require charging throughout the day to maintain it. Luckily it does have 25 watt fast charging, so it isn't an issue. But for a phone with a battery of 5000 milliamp, I would expect it to last a lot longer. At the same time, it does come with a 6.5 inch display, so bigger display mean it is drawing more battery. And is also running 120 Hz refresh rate as well, so there's a lot going on there. And I guess one of the best features about this phone is it does have a lot of software support. Samsung is promising 4 years of update, so if you buy it today, you should be good until 2026 in terms of getting the latest and greatest software. Samsung is a little bit slow with the software updates compared to Apple, but they said they would do it. It will take a little bit longer, but eventually they'll get there. And when I first started using the phone, I did notice it was a little bit slow and laggy, even jumping from screen to screen. So I first start off by turning off the animation just to make the phone feel a little bit faster, and it does. Maybe I'm just so used to using like flagship phones all the time and jumping to an inferior chip. I can definitely notice the difference between the S series or even the Google Pixel 6a. They have the Tensor chip, but I find it to be much more efficient and just navigating around. I've never had any like stutter or lag. Sometimes doing simple things such as searching for an app, it'll take like at least 2 to 5 seconds, and that's enough for me to notice and bother me. Like, it shouldn't be this slow for a phone that is brand new. With the Pixel 6a, I did have weird moments where it does stutter and lag, especially if I am copying large text. But that's probably the only situation where I do encounter a little bit of stutter there. And I know the 6a is more aggressive in terms of the management. When I'm switching between apps such as Pokemon Go, and then I switch to a texting app and I switch back, then the game will restart. They're much more aggressive handling all that in the background, so that's maybe why it's a little bit smoother. Versus compared to the A53, I don't experience that same issue when I'm switching between apps. Like, everything still stay in place. But it does feel a little bit slow and laggy, and unfortunately I did stop using the phone after about 2 weeks due to the fact that it was bothering me so much. And I have many other weird issues as well. I'm not sure specific to the phone itself. I do have a relatively older car, Mazda 3 2012, but when I'm using like Bluetooth to talk on the phone, occasionally people cannot hear me. I never had this issues with any of the other phone, but this was a complaint that I had a few times with people on the other end. But yeah, the phone that I did end up switching back to is the Galaxy S20. I know it's like a 2-year-old phone at this point, but I think it actually works really well for me. And it is an awesome camera. I basically use the S20 for all of my video recording, and it still works great. It is even on Android 12, which is the same software as the S22 and the Z Fold 4. I know it's coming close to an end in terms of the software support, but even you buy like an S20 on eBay or Amazon today, you can easily get it for $300 versus $450 for the A53, even though it's a newer phone. But in terms of like performance, it is night and day. The Snapdragon 888 just is much more efficient, fluid. Even though I had the phone for 2 years, it works flawlessly. Never have any lag or stutter or anything like that. And it has the same fast charging, high refresh rate. And the S20, when it first came out, it was actually $1,000. So I know the price have decreased a lot over the years, but it is still worth it. And even you go on eBay, you can get the S20 Ultra for $420, which is still less than the $450 for the A53. And I would still take any of the S series over the A53 any day. So it kind of shows like newer is not always better. I know companies are always pushing out new phones every 6 months and marketing them in different ways, but since around 2020 or so, smartphones haven't really changed that much in years. I mean, for the more expensive phone, they do try to add more camera features and price it above $1,000. But at the end of the day, I think there's still a lot more value if you get the S20 or even the S21 compared to the A53 today. If you're looking for the budget around $400 to $500 range. But if you are fixated on getting a brand new phone within the last year or so, I would recommend the FE, Galaxy S21 FE. Maybe spend a little bit more than you want, but I think it's worth it just in terms of the processing power and the day-to-day usage. And using the A53 kind of helped me realize that I have been taking these high-end flagship phones for granted, like the S22, the Pixel 6, Z Fold, Z Flip 3. But going back to the A53, it is a pretty noticeable difference. And between the A53 and the Pixel 6a, I would definitely recommend the 6a, just due to the fact that they have the same chip as the flagship phones, and overall it is much more efficient. I know this may not be a popular view, and there are a lot of fans of the A series out there, but I think it is not worth it for me. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Let me know what your thoughts about the Galaxy A53. Please like and subscribe, and see you guys next time.